Watch Moist's take on the finale. Okay, yeah, I'll do that. I'll do that too. Let's just check this out.
10 years, it's finally concluded.
Wait. What did he say?
After 10 years, it's finally concluded. The Attack on Titan series finale just aired last night. And as I've mentioned in the past, this is one of the only shows I've ever watched week by week as it aired during its seasons.
Damn, man.
It started when I was a young virgin male in college going through my own mysterious anime character phase where I have no doubt I frightened all of my peers into thinking I was some unhinged psychopath. And now a decade later, I've shed that
2013,
skin.
dude.
I'm no longer a young virgin male. I'm an elder sexual deity. Man, what a journey it's been. You're not going to believe me, but I was actually able to avoid all of the spoilers for this ending, which is no
If only all anime viewers were like that.
easy task. That's like trying to dodge the rain during a thunderstorm. But I did it, and I deserve to be knighted for that achievement. There were so many people that were trying to spoil this for everybody. Just a lot of people shaking their fist, bah humbug. I didn't like the manga ending, so now I want to make sure everyone who only watches the anime is ruined for it. And douchey, of course.
I think I heard that there's like whole Reddit, Reddits? Is that just what you call it? Like dedicated to just hating on the show or something? It's weird. The only thing that I've experienced with this was The Last of Us, where I know that like you had the Last of Us 2 Reddit, and then you had like I think there was a Last of Us 2 Reddit, and then there was a Last of Us Part 2 Reddit or something like that. And, you know, like both of them were like basically complete opposites of each other. Titanfolk, yeah, I think that's what I heard about. That's what it was. So it's so funny to me, dude. But honestly, this is also just the thing that I kind of hate about society. Jesus Christ, what a word to use. But like nowadays, people got way too much time on their hands, dude, to be like arguing with literal online strangers constantly about their, you know. I used to do that, but I was 14 years old, so I can only imagine that, you know, people that are like that, like they just must be young, and then everybody kind of gets themselves involved with it. But it's like, dude, you know, just watch for entertainment, and if you didn't like it, then you didn't like it, then you just move on, right? Is it that like difficult? I don't know. Apparently it is.
But not unexpected. It happens all the time. I did not know the ending, luckily.
Me neither.
All I knew is that there were a ton of people that were extremely dissatisfied with the way that it wrapped up in the manga. And that, of course, made me very worried about how the anime would stick the landing or if it would just fumble and flop like a lot of other anime endings. Yep. But I'm happy to say that this was a beautifully fitting ending. I don't think it was perfect. There are still a few criticisms I have of it, but overall I think it is an incredibly strong finish to what I believe is a masterpiece of a show. Not just a masterpiece of anime.
I mean, if he's been watching from the, like he said he was watching from the start, right? So 2013. So I imagine he'll at least like have remembered all the details and stuff too. Because again, I will say that I think most of the criticisms that it gets probably like, you know, there's validity in some of them. I think, yeah, again, most people probably watch this special not having seen anything Attack on Titan related literally since, like, you know, March with the previous part, and then before that, like, you know, they just tune in whenever new things air, and then they just kind of take it for granted, right? I think most of the criticisms are probably more about all the details, which the special goes over pretty quickly, right? So you can just like watch it and really enjoy it for what it is without thinking too much about, oh, this all still makes sense in the grand scheme of things. But again, there's probably valid criticisms. I don't know if he's going to address them.
A masterpiece of a show in general. I really hold this series in high regard, and I am so satisfied with the way that it completes itself here. And it makes me wonder, what the fuck went wrong in the manga? Like, was the community just smoking on stupid juice or something?
There's not even much of a difference, though, is there?
Like, I don't understand exactly what they didn't like about the ending, because I went back and checked. Apparently, the ending in the manga is pretty similar to the ending in the anime that just aired. Only the anime had a couple of tweaks, a couple of additions, and a few minor adjustments, but nothing major. The story beats are still, for the most part...
What I heard, people, but we still have to watch a video actually talking about the differences and the details, I guess. I can maybe watch something else later about that. But what I heard is that the only thing I heard about is actually the conversation that Armin has with Eren, where they talk about like, oh yeah, we'll meet again in hell. And then in the manga, it was worded differently, and it was like Armin basically thanking Eren for committing mass genocide, and it came across way wrong or something like that. That's what I heard, but
the same from what I can tell. So why were people pissing and shitting over the manga ending? It's a good, satisfying conclusion. The only theory I can formulate up here in my smooth little brain is that people just wanted a 100% happy ending where everyone wins, it's all sunshine and rainbows, and the world is perfect. And that would never be the case in a series like this. If they did.
But I don't, like, I haven't looked up enough about the actual criticisms then that people have. But I don't think that's what it's about. I don't think people at all necessarily wanted the super happy ending or something. I don't think most people are, like, the people that didn't like it, right? And for the record, I liked it. I love the ending, right? But I don't think people really had much of a problem with the actual ending. I think people, like I said, had, I think, a problem with some of the details and the way they explain the way things. And like, oh, suddenly it's about Emir being in love with the, with the king, right? There's details like that. There's Eren talking about how he himself decided to have Bertolt commit the attack or whatever, right? And therefore have the Titans still go after his mom. All the way it sort of explained those things, I think that's what people have an issue with, right? Not actually the ending in itself, as far as I'm aware. Did people have an issue with the ending in itself? Let me know in the chat, because I don't know.
Did go that direction with a happy ending, it would ruin Attack on Titan. It would run counter to everything that this series has propped up and framed. And I am so glad they didn't take that easy cop-out method, because they did have a chance. With the way, I don't want to get into spoilers here, but they did have the opportunity to just pull their punch and say, actually, everyone's okay, everything's great, happy ending, wee, woo. And I'm so glad they didn't do that. Like, this is not a story that deserved a happy ending. This is one that needed a grim but hopeful ending. Something the show has driven home.
Dude, you know what the funny thing is? I feel like the ending, in a certain way, was happier than I thought it would actually be. You get what I'm saying? I mean, obviously, like, Eren dying was sad, and even Mikasa sort of being at the grave and everything is super sad. Super sad. But at the same time, it's like, I genuinely found it, well, yeah, I mean, happy is completely the wrong word to use. But I found it, honestly, kind of beautiful, man. Like, my favorite scene in the whole episode is literally the last 2 minutes. Like, it's the end credits and then seeing the time lapse. And it's funny because in the moment I was like commenting over it, but like you see Mikasa, of course, dying herself too, right? And the fact that they just like, it's kind of, I don't know if it's like bold. Yeah, I feel like it's kind of bold to do that, but it's, I love how relentless Attack on Titan sometimes can just be in telling you, like, this is the realistic fucking outcome, whether you like it or don't like it, right? Because you just see Zagantian out there literally, like, turning into this massive, futuristic-looking city, getting attacked, war-torn. It's like, oh, things just continue the way they always did, right? War is an everlasting reality. The way Isayama answers that question, I fucking love that, man. I thought that was awesome. Yeah.
Time and time again, that no matter what you do, there will always be conflict, but there can also always...
Oh, dude, and there's one more thing I have to say. Sherry, thank you for the donation. I appreciate it. There's one more thing I have to say, but like, the song that they used during the end credits, Jesus Christ, man. I've been listening to it like 50 times probably the past 2 days. It's so, man, it's so good. And then when they literally kick in the theme, the original theme from the original first opening of the show, season 1, the moment that, you see the city sort of get attacked with all the nukes drop or whatever, right? Fantastic. And it's the same, apparently. I never looked up anything about the artists and stuff, but Linked Horizon, they're called, right? But like, it's the same, basically, group or the same guy, Revo, I think he was called, that's been doing it from the start, right? So it's, I mean, dude, it's so cool to see it come full circle like that.
Be hope. And I love the way that they finish on that note. You can boil it down even simpler into basically, war never changes. Humans are just predisposed to it. No matter how large the conflict is, no matter how great the resolution is or how long the period of peace is, it's only a matter of time until
Yeah.
the cycle starts over again.
Literally
which
that.
is what the post-credits scene alludes to in the finale as well. I just think it is a beautiful, beautiful piece. I think it is an extraordinary work. Now,
I mean, it's like the cycle continues, but at the same time, the cycle could be different, though, right? Because with that, and this was like rightfully pointed out to me, and I fully agree with it. When you see the kid with the dog walking into the tree, it's like, oh my god, this is Amir all over again, right? But at the same time, yeah, he was not forced into it. Like we saw with Amir, of course, she was literally like on the run and she was being attacked, falling into that tree or whatever, didn't even have much of a choice, and that's when it happened, right? Whereas I don't know really what his situation is then. I mean, we saw, of course, the Ganchna basically, or the new city that formed or whatever, get attacked. Once again, thank you, Cheryl. We saw it get attacked, and so, you know, it's kind of this post-apocalyptic type of scenario that we see, right? It kind of looks like a Last of Us type world that he's walking through. But at the same time, I don't know if he's on the run or something. It could be. You see him like run at the very start of it, but I feel like he's just playing with his dog or something. I don't know what's going on. But he's just like out of curiosity walking in there, right? And yeah, like he's not forced into it or something. So obviously this is not going to be like, oh yeah, you know, Titans are going to start appearing all over again, and you know, he's about to turn into the founding Titan or whatever. I don't think that's going to happen. I think something else is going to, it's kind of just like, it's to show you the side, or you know, some things are everlasting in terms of like war, and some things keep continuing themselves, but they don't always have to play out the same way. I guess that's how I see it. And I don't know if it's setting up the potential for like a new series to come out of that, to spawn out of that. I guess it's a possibility. I don't think that's what's going to happen though. Well, I don't think that's what it's for, let me say. There's always a possibility that Isayama might want to actually do a sequel then. Or, you know, like, this is actually what I was thinking about. What if Isayama starts a whole different story, and it seems entirely disconnected from Attack on Titan, and then at some point throughout that particular story, suddenly we're going to realize that it's connected to it or something, right? Or like we're going to see that, you know, something in the show has to do with the guy that walked into the tree or something. You get what I'm saying? Like it's a possibility, I guess, right? But again, he doesn't have to do that at all. I thought this was a beautiful ending, and it's a self-contained ending. This is not an ending that necessarily sets up a sequel, but it still could.
I want to talk about it, but I don't want to give too many spoilers, but there's no way I can talk about it without at least slapping my feet around in the spoiler pool. I can't tiptoe around
You won't make a sequel?
I want to talk about, so this is your spoiler warning here. Proceed with caution, bitch. So anyway, everything the show has done up till this point, I think, has been executed perfectly. The slow transition of Eren from the hero everyone roots for with a very simple shonen goal of I want to kill every Titan so the world is safe, and to take an idea that simple of I want to kill every Titan so the world and my friends are safe, and to morph it into what he's become here with basically a genocidal maniac is so incredibly risky, but done so well.
That was the journey, man.
It's probably the best example I've ever seen of a hero falling from grace. And the way the finale handles this character, Eren Yeager, it blew my mind. So this entire last season, leading up to this as well, Eren has become kind of like this cold, calculating monster who's going to destroy the entire world so that way his friends are safe and the people he cares about are safe. He deduces the only way to keep his people alive is by killing everybody else, basically. So that way, you know, there's no one left, thus there's no war, there's no one to attack them anymore. And at its core, that is the exact same idea he had when he was a child. Kill all the Titans. But over time, it changes into kill everyone because it's the only way to keep the people I care about safe. He is still a raging child, fundamentally, with the same goals. And in the finale, we finally get to see him, you know, without...
I mean, it's funny though, because like in the end, what it turned into was still sort of kill all the Titans, actually, right? It started with kill all the Titans, but really what it was in the end was like get rid of the Titan curse, actually, right? I don't know. I still don't know how to necessarily interpret Aaron's final speech and if I totally understood it or what he talks about with Armin. But am I saying it correctly in that what now it turns out his mindset was all along was still to go ahead with doing all of this? But what it really was about is that he saw he had no other choice. Again, I think this is how I'm supposed to interpret it, but tell me if I'm wrong. But like, was he saying that everything he's doing so far? Thank you, Sheriff, for the donation.
If you have time, definitely check out the final Mystery of Attack on Titan YouTube video explaining Immer's character.
I'll have a look, Sarah. I'll have a look. But what I was gonna say is, like, God, how do I even put this? So, him doing what he did, wasn't it actually doing so that Mikasa would kill him? Because she saw, like, even Mikasa would feel like she would have no other choice to kill him, which would lift the curse into him because of Emiya, right? Because Emiya would see in Mikasa somebody who did what she couldn't do. And it's still, like, that's how they got rid of the Titans. That's how they would be able to get rid of the Titan curse. And that's how he would be able to create a level playing field for his friends where they could still live in peace until the end of their days, right? I think that's what the idea was supposed to be. Because he also mentioned like the 80% needed to go to create that level playing. Like the 20% left in the world would be sort of similar to all the people left on Paradise Island. I think that's what he might have said. And so now they would sort of be on equal terms too. And so that's why we know that Zaganshina, or, you know, Paradise, I guess, actually was able to keep going on for years there in peace, up until the point where we saw Mikasa die, and then some years, right? Until finally the war started happening again. Because eventually that's what it always leads to. But he bought them enough time, right? Aaron the Bird, thank you. Aaron the Bird, I love the fucking name. Thank you for the donation as well. Thanks, guys, for the support through Super Chat. I really appreciate it.
Without the mask on, he no longer has that facade of being a stoic, uncaring menace. We get to see him break down, cry, and we get the whole kit and caboodle. When Armin talks to him, Aaron reveals that he is still just a fucking idiot that found a lot of power. He even says that word. He says he is a garden variety idiot who fell into a lot of power. And the only answer he has to any of the problems in the world is rage. He says that he is a slave to freedom. He can't escape his very nature, which is just a dumb idiot whose only answer to anything is violence. He never changed. He has always been a kid, basically, who is having a temper tantrum, but he gets so much power that that temper tantrum changes the entire world. And I've seen a bit of criticism over that scene, like, why would Aaron start crying? This goes so against this character. And it's like you're not even watching the show, or you're watching it with just your brain turned off and clapping at all the flashy animation. Like, this is very in line with his character.
Yeah, I think so,
from the very
too.
beginning. He is the only character in this show that just doesn't change at all.
To be fair, I think like Aaron crying and all that, it was just kind of, I mean, Aaron always has been an emotional character. It's just that on that front, he's never been open about it to his friends or something, right? Like, I think, well, I don't know. I mean, Aaron, I've seen some people say that like Aaron might not have been like, or that to them it never showed like Aaron was actually in love with Mikasa. Like Mikasa was clearly in love with Aaron all the way through. Which I guess I can understand why people feel that way, but I feel like he did. He was in love with her. I always honestly felt that way. It's just like Aaron is the kind of, like, he was mission driven and he didn't even, like, want to accept any of those feelings. He wasn't even thinking about them or something. That's kind of how I saw it. And it's like, nah, he just had a moment for himself in this finale to finally confess. You get what I'm saying? I don't know. That's how I saw it.
Number one priority in the world was the protection and safety of his friends, but he even admits in the finale that he got so...
Yeah, but apparently I think what I read too is that Isayama even once described Aaron's feelings towards Mikasa as like almost looking like her more like a sister or like a mother or something like that. So, you know, I don't know. I mean, again, I think that's absolutely valid criticisms people have. And I think, well, so far I'm only halfway through the video here, of course, but I don't know if Charlie is really going to address, you know, like specific details. Because, again, people's criticisms are not with the ending, though. I think people's criticisms are with certain certain explanations that were suddenly given in this finale for how things have unfolded that don't make much sense to them, right? And yeah, I don't know if they make much sense to me necessarily. I mean, it's still way too early for me even to really make up my mind about it. I feel I'm gonna have to think about certain things a lot more still.
So lost and his brain so messed up from all of this power that he wasn't even sure if his friends were going to survive, to which he had so much regret. But one thing that I found extremely interesting here, and I can't help but draw a mirror to my favorite anime. Well, what was my favorite anime? I think Attack on Titan is now going to be my favorite because I really do think they did nail the ending. Code Geass. Code Geass ends. This is big spoilers. Code Geass.
Yo, dude! I don't want to hear Code Geass spoilers though.
Victory hand.
Okay, skip to 8 minutes, guys. Are we sure about this? 8 minutes? Can anybody confirm this to me? Because I don't want to hear any of this. I still gotta watch Code Geass at some point. I was about to say, but yeah, no, never mind. Yeah, we saw 8 minutes. Okay, cool. We should have put a timestamp in there. Always gotta be so careful with this stuff.
Zero is the hero, basically. In Attack on Titan, Eren had a similar motive that he unveils to Armin at the end. He wanted to be the ultimate evil, which he was. He destroyed 80% of humanity in the fucking rumbling, literally trampling them under his feet. And he wanted Armin and Mikasa, all of them, to kill him so that they would be the heroes. They would be the most important people in history because they stopped Eren Yeager, the ultimate destroyer. And I just thought that was so beautiful. And it, like, again, it draws an obvious comparison to the way Code Geass ends, in my opinion.
Oh, I
but I
mean,
really think they
Armin
fucking
Arletto.
nailed that concept. And it's not like it came out of nowhere. That does feel like something Eren would want to do. And then when he gets all of this power, he mentions that his mind is scrambled. It's a mess because with the power he has, he sees the past and the future all happening simultaneously. And it leads to him basically being this puppet master that makes sure that the future plays out the way that he's experiencing it in his head. And he says he's tried so many times to like change things, but it always plays out exactly the same. It's a really interesting explanation for how things work, but it does bring me to a criticism I have of it. The way they execute this exposition, I think, is way too jumpy. They jump all over the place abruptly. So it happens during a very climactic moment in the finale, and then it immediately starts jumping to start piecing together the puzzle of what the fuck is actually happening in terms of Eren's motivation, in terms of Ymir, in terms of everything overarching in the world, how it all takes form and shape. And I don't really like how much it jumps around. I think there definitely could have been a smoother way of doing it, so that way it wouldn't be as convoluted. Of course, it was always going to be a little complicated because of just how big the story is with so many moving parts.
I mean, what exactly is he talking about? Is he talking about the scene that we saw with like Eren and Mikasa? This is the other thing that I read, and I don't know if it's true or not. So you let me know, guys. But people were saying that the conversation they were having wasn't even necessarily sort of a what-if situation. That's how I interpreted it at first. But that it's something that actually played out in paths. This is certainly still something that I'm like confused about, I will say, even at this point in the show, like how exactly paths works. You get what I'm saying? Like what it's even sort of about. Even for Zeke to be able to get locked up in there for a certain while, right? And then being able to escape it eventually still anyway. It was a fake memory that Eren inserted in Mikasa's mind using the founder. Ah, well, actually, yeah, that makes a lot more sense. Right. It was when Eren visited Mikasa. What do you mean when Eren visited Mikasa? So it's not something that actually played out. It's just Eren planted certain things in their head that they would remember afterwards.
Eren transforming into Colossal Titan is plot hole?
Eren forming into Colossal Titan. Yeah, what was that about? That's the thing. I don't have all the answers either, right? Like, I'm still very much trying to make my mind up about it. Yes, Eren takes Mikasa into the past with his founding powers and sets up a life there, kind of like an alternate reality happening. No, it's a plot hole. He has the God. It's funny too because everybody says something differently. Oh man, it's not a fake memory. Okay, it played out, but in an alternate path. Okay, cool. I mean, it's all kind of the same thing, but yeah, that makes sense.
But I think by having it jump from different time periods, like Armin and Eren as kids, and now all of a sudden here's like an alternate reality that could have happened with Mikasa and Eren, instead of just jumping all over the place, if they had just streamlined that a little bit more to feed you these explanations, I think it would have just gone over better and would have led to a little bit less confusion. But it's not the biggest deal in the world. It's actually very aesthetically pleasing, and it's pretty beautiful, a lot of the places they revisit while doing this exposition. But I just think that it led to a little more confusion than it needed to. Now, while I do think it is a little hard to follow with all the jumpiness, what they actually deliver...
Okay, so this is what I don't understand. People, you really have to answer this for me. But like, okay, so Eren is talking to Armin. What is that scene? What is this where Eren talks to Armin as their kids, right? The first scene that we see in the like last chapter or whatever, right? I mean, that's not something that actually played out, or is it? This is what I don't understand, because then why is he as a kid still, because as a kid, he's not meant to have certain knowledge yet, though, even himself, right? In the paths also, it actually happened, like a dream. It happened in paths, okay. But when does... when does Eren himself realize that it happened in paths? Like, at what point is he himself aware of these things? Is it it's probably only until he kisses Historia or whatever, or the hand or something, right? Or maybe I'm wrong. He realized it the entire time, but he couldn't have realized it the entire time, though, could he? Because then why would he be like... He knew his mom was going to get killed then, too, as a kid. Right? Like, how could he still be sort of... I mean, you know, of course, you're still going to be upset, but like... Oh, it was when he kissed Historia's hands. Okay, yeah, no, that's what I was going to say. Like, I feel like early on in the show, he was not meant to have any of this knowledge, though. Right? There was a point where suddenly he got the knowledge, I feel. Well, a lot of people are saying yes when he kissed Historia's hand, so I feel like that's actually what it was. Yes, in real life it is when he kissed the hand, but in paths he knows everything because there is no past. Yeah, no, that makes sense. I get that. Okay. Well, let's just go with that.
is extraordinary. So I mentioned that alternate timeline with Mikasa and Eren. And I think that is such an important thing that a lot of people are overlooking. So basically what happened in one timeline, Mikasa confessed her love to Eren, and it causes him to abandon the rumbling, no longer going scorched earth, and instead the two run away to a cabin to spend the last 4 years of Eren's life together. And what this showcases is that, well, Eren obviously saw what has and will happen, but Mikasa confessing her love is enough to get him to not go through with it. But by not going through with it, it doesn't stop death, destruction, and ruin from happening. It still happens, but Eren's not the one doing it. It's Marley. The choice was basically Eren commit genocide and save the people that he cares about, or do nothing, go live with Mikasa in a cabin, and let Marley commit genocide, and now the people he cares about are the victims. And they prop up so many mirrors to previously very important moments in the show during these sequences, and it's so unbelievably fucking beautiful and well done. It really is. But the important thing that this sequence highlights is that Mikasa...
Yeah, Ross says something that I totally agree with in the chat. He says, some people are so pissed about the small plot holes because of how good the story is, how well written it is, and how lacking in plot holes relative it is to other shows. Nah, but that's what I'm saying. Like, certain things are a little bit hard to explain now all of a sudden, right? And it is like, oh, was that the best way to go about it? So I still haven't, like I said, I still haven't thought everything through yet fully enough to even like really know how I feel about it. All that I can say is like I understand that some people might actually have genuine problems with like details and the way that they were worked out in the end, right? Whereas on the other side, I will also say that like just generally speaking, I thought the finale was super satisfying, and I absolutely loved it. The ending itself, I think, is great too. So it kind of goes both ways, right? I mean, but I feel like there's even things early on that you can kind of critique, right? Like think about how in episode 4 or 5, I think it was, when Eren first fights Bertolt, right, as the Colossal Titan, and he just disappears in the smoke. And then people say afterwards, like, oh yeah, that's because we've come to know now about Bertolt that like, oh, he can lose this smoke or whatever, the steam, right? And that's what causes him to shrink. And so what would have happened in that moment is that he lost the steam so fast that suddenly he had shrunk down entirely, and Bertolt just climbed out of the Colossal Titan and there was nothing left anymore. And it's like, oh yeah, sure. I guess that's a way to explain it, but it also kind of seems a little far-fetched, I guess, right? So it's like there's things early on that you could already like bring up too, I think.
Mikasa not confessing her love to Eren is what allows him to go through with the rumbling, but he only ever had two choices, basically. Either he commits genocide or Marley. And the thing that...
Wait. Is that true? Is that actually, like, true? Because there's that scene with Mikasa where Eren flat out, like, asks her, I think it was, right? Was it the season 4 part 2 finale or something? Like, if she had said that she was in love with him, is that what would have gotten him to change his mind then about going through with the rumbling? I feel like he knew anyway, right? But I don't know. Yeah. Yes, if she said yes. Hard to say, might have been. I think he knew she wouldn't confess, that's why he asked. Yeah, possibly. It doesn't matter though. I mean, things played out the way they played out, of course. But I kind of wonder, like, would he have gone for a different outcome if she had said yes in that moment? I don't know if that's true necessarily, but who's to say?
That is whether or not Mikasa tells him that she loves him. So it just highlights the importance of her keeping her feelings to herself, because then Eren goes through with this plan. I don't want to get hung up just breaking down each incredible scene here, but I'll go ahead and summarize. I think what Attack on Titan has done is something incredibly special that puts it up there with probably one of my favorite stories ever told in general. Again, this isn't just exclusive to anime. This is one of my favorite stories ever told. And the anime from start to finish, I think, encapsulates everything beautifully. Even if you just like action, Attack on Titan delivers in a big way. The finale has some of the best action sequences in the entire show. In the finale, while they're fighting on the back of Eren, there's every other generation of Titan that's ever really existed, pretty much, getting thrown into the mix and fighting off our characters to protect them. It's really great
it's
fighting.
Cool how all the characters got to come back.
Didn't cut any corners.
Still in some way.
Love
Grisha.
That. But it's more than just action. Attack on Titan just offers a really thought-provoking piece in a very, very beautifully constructed world filled with interesting characters. I love what they've done with it. And also the music to accompany everything from the very beginning of the show has been extraordinary, top-notch. In the finale, it's the same. Great soundtrack. It's just such banger boner jam after.
Dude, the soundtrack is literally the fucking best. Like it's ridiculous, honestly. Even if, I mean, they do play a lot of sort of the same themes, I guess you could say, over the I came to, like, I remember the that actually sort of impressed me, actually, almost. But like, I remember the season 4 part 2 finale, right, where Eren first starts attacking everybody with the Titans. You know, you guys know what I'm talking about, right? And then the song that they play over that is like epic as fuck. But then I'm watching back season 1, and I think it's a scene where maybe Reiner comes in for the first time as the Armor Titan or something, and they're playing the same fucking song. And I'm like, holy shit, they've been playing this from the start. I didn't even realize that. I literally thought that as I was watching that for the first time, the season 4 part 2 finale, like, dude, this is the fucking best piece of music I've ever heard. And it's like, dude, it's been in there the whole time. What the hell?
After Boner Jam, I think Attack on Titan is probably my favorite anime now. It's able to dethrone Code Geass, which has been my favorite for a very long time. But
Yeah, for me, somebody in the chat was actually asking about this. Somebody in the chat was going, I guess he's never seen Steins Gate. I'm like, dude. Because for me, this is the thing I will say, but I basically how it is for me right now is like, with having only seen, of course, about 10 to 15 anime, I think, in total now. So, guys, I still have a lot to watch, right? Don't get me wrong, but there's two that are easily my favorites, and that's Attack on Titan and Steins Gate. Those are my favorites so far, and I feel like Attack on Titan is more because I'm like genuinely impressed with the scope of the story and yeah, just like how complex and how fantastically well laid out the story was, how it progresses and transitions into something else entirely the further you get in, right? It's like you keep coming to different revelations that turn the story completely upside down, and it's fucking amazing how it's done. But then I think with Steins Gate, it's like Steins Gate is did not impress me in that way, but I feel like Steins Gate sort of spoke to me very personally, and it had characters that I felt more connected to the characters in Steins Gate than I did Attack on Titan, which is, I mean, you know, it's obviously not a detriment to Attack on Titan whatsoever. I like those characters a lot too. I feel like with Steins Gate, it's like, oh my god, these are my characters. It's like, I want to be part of this group. You get what I'm saying? Whereas with Attack on Titan, not necessarily. I just loved seeing how, you know, what that journey was like, I guess, right? But yeah, both shows are so amazing, and both have like a fantastic soundtrack. Like all the anime songs that I listen to are just Attack on Titan and Steins Gate at this point. So, you know, yeah, it's that's what I will say. But like, anime really has like introduced me to a level of storytelling I honestly did not even realize was possible. Yeah, because I feel like those stories almost really, I mean, I've said this about Attack on Titan, but I don't know if I've seen any story in a different TV show or a different or a game or a movie or whatever that is as complex as something like Attack on Titan, right? Like my favorite TV show universe is Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul, which I mean, all these things that I talk about, Steins Gate, Attack on Titan, Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul. For games, it's like Uncharted for me, right? And maybe God of War is up there. And like Kojima, does great storytelling too, of course, which is kind of like anime storytelling in a video game, I guess, with Metal Gear Solid and Death Stranding. It's sort of what it feels like to me. But I feel like Attack on Titan kind of outdoes all those things that I just talked about in terms of sheer complexity and scope, that I never like realized that an anime would be doing that. I always kind of, this is the problem that I made, is like, no, I didn't forget Dark. Dark is great too, Index. God damn it. But what was I going to say? I think the mistake I made is that my perception of anime was like Dragon Ball Z and like Pokemon. That was my perception of anime. And Pokemon, I used to watch Pokemon when I was a kid, right? And it's like, oh yeah, every single episode, Team Rocket shows up again, and then you blast them back into the sky or whatever, and it's like, we'll be back, or what do they say? And it's like, oh yeah, I guess that's anime storytelling. That's like what I thought before watching any of these kinds of anime, right? So I think that's the mistake that I made.
But I am comfortable in saying that now at the very top for me is Attack on Titan. It's a show that means a lot to me. Again, this is one of the only shows I've ever watched like week by week as it's aired during its seasons, and now that it's concluded, it feels a little weird. Knowing that there's not going to be Attack on Titan, the final season, part 3.5, final chapters, part 1 of the final series, or whatever other wild naming scheme they would have come up with. It feels like a little upsetting. I've never really had that feeling of when you finish a really good series where you're like left a little upset about it. But now I get it. Like, seeing that this is concluded now is bittersweet, because I think it's a great, fitting, beautiful ending to an extraordinary show. But damn, you just always want more, I guess. But yeah, overall, I think this is a must-watch. I really do. I think even if you're not an anime fan, Attack on Titan is an absolute must-watch series. It's so fucking good, and I'm extremely pleased with the ending. I don't know what all the hubbub was about with the manga ending. Maybe they really made some missteps somewhere in there, but whatever missteps there were in the manga, they are not present in the anime. I can say that with confidence. So yeah, anyway, that's really about it. So yeah.
Yeah. Please don't be like this guy, and then he shows himself. No, anyway, like, nah, I think for the most part I agree, but like I said, I think there's probably, I mean, I'm not trying to defend the people that have criticisms because I don't even necessarily agree, right? But I feel like I said, what people have criticisms about are probably different things than Charlie touched on in this video. You get what I'm saying? Again, he didn't really touch on any of the specifics that I tried to point out a little bit earlier, but I mean, even then, it's like, even if you have your gripes with some plot points, right? I would not be able to understand how people could genuinely think that like the ending entirely ruined Attack on Titan. It was like, even that, I mean, you know, to each their own, right? But it's literally like a what, 90 episode journey or something that you go through, and then it's like, okay, the final episode explains some things maybe a little bit differently than you had expected, or like weirdly maybe you feel that way, right? That's entirely cool, but obviously it does not take away the fact that the journey itself is fucking phenomenal. Yeah, and even then I myself personally thought that the finale was super well executed nonetheless, so I loved it. Yeah, there's really nothing else that I can say.